Hi everyone, my name is Shauna in case you don't know, and welcome back to another video. In today's video, I'm going to be doing the summer school book tag. For this summer, I think I'm going to try and crack out a lot of the summer book tags. I have like a Google Docs of like tons of book tags, and I'm just slowly, every time that I want to fill a book tag, I go look at my Google Doc and I'm like, there's that one. And I know there's quite a few that have to do with summer on here, and the summer school book tag is one that I'm going to be doing. I have the tag creator listed down in my Google Docs as Al D Books, so their YouTube channel will be linked down in the description below. There's essentially a bunch of different prompts, whether it just be about stuff related to school or specific school subjects, and I'm going to go through them and discuss them all with you. Also, I feel like this is super fitting considering I'm taking a summer term class. I take one class per term, so it is taking literal ages for me to get my bachelor's degree, which is a pain in the butt, but it's all I can manage with my health issues. So that does mean I'm taking a summer class this term. I'm actually taking a writing class. You know what? I'll talk about my writing class a little bit for the first prompt because I think it's fitting. The first prompt is language arts. It says, tell us about a book you were assigned to read in school. Well, I have been assigned to read 2 books this summer for my class, and so I thought I'd talk about them. They're pretty short books, so I think it's really manageable to read them for my class. It's a creative writing class, so they're optional in the sense that you don't have to read them if you're not planning on reading novels, but they're recommended to read if you're planning on writing novels, and novels are the lengths that I'm currently working on writing. I have a first draft of a novel finished. I have another couple ones that I'm working on, so novel length is for me. And so there was 2 books. There's this one, The Bear by Andrew Krivak, and then this one right here is That's All I Know by Elisa Levy. So both of these books sound futuristic and apocalyptic, which I'm actually really excited about. Every once in a while you get like a class where you get assigned to read novels and they're actually interesting, and these ones sound actually interesting. I'd never heard about them until I got in this class, but I want to read the back of the books really quickly because I am actually really looking forward to these ones. They sound like they're going to be right up my alley. So first up, we're going to read the back of The Bear. In an Edenic future, a girl and her father live close to the land in the shadow of a lone mountain. They possess a few remnants of civilization, some books, a pane of glass, a set of flint and steel, and a comb. The father teaches the girl how to fish and hunt, the secrets of the seasons and the stars. He is preparing her for an adulthood in harmony with nature, for they are the last of humankind. But when the girl finds herself alone in an unknown landscape, it is a bear that will lead her back home through a vast wilderness that offers the greatest lessons of all if she can only learn to listen. A cautionary tale of human fragility, of love and loss, the bear is a stunning tribute to the beauty of nature's dominion. So this is definitely one that's set in the future. There isn't many humans left. So very interested in reading this one. I love like end of the world type stories. And I believe that this one, That's All I Know, is about similar things as well in terms of the end of the world. It says 19-year-old little Leah lives in a rural town where life ends at the edge of the forest. When a stranger loses his dog on the first day after the end of the world, she warns him not to follow it into the forest. The people who enter never come out. She tells him about the burning in her gut, winding a tale of lost desire and conspiracies over a shared joint. As the town prepares for the end of the world festival, little Leah faces an intensifying desire to leave, even if it means being unloved, unwanted, unable to return. She works at her mother's store and cares for her empty-headed younger sister. She whiles away her free time with Catalina, who does nothing but cry, Javier, whom she wants to love her, and Marco, who leaves weed and his best potatoes on her doorstep. She needs to get out of this town. That's all she knows. In a formally ambitious, sustained monologue, Elisa Levy's That's All I Know explores the toll of caring for those who cannot care for themselves, the fear of the unknown that anchors people to unfulfilling lives, and the bravery it takes in it to longing. I'm a little more skeptical that I'm not gonna like this one as much for a couple different reasons. Saying that it's a sustained monologue makes me a little apprehensive. I think long monologues where like a book is literally just the monologue can work well, but I think it takes a very special writer to do that for me, because I think the only ones that I can think of that have been sort of similar that I've read, I sort of just got bored of because it was so long-winded, just going on one monologue essentially. The other thing I'm worried about is it's talking about like when a stranger loses his dog, and I'm like, is dog death gonna be like a huge theme in here? Because that's a no for me. But I'm still interested in reading it. It still could be good. It's still like an end of the world story. I love end of the world stories, so I'm looking forward to reading both of these, and I will have to finish them by the end of the summer. Well, technically I don't have to because it's not like there's any assignments relating to these, but I'm going to try my best to read them by the end of the term. Question number 2, math. When will I ever use this again? The one that comes to mind most for this is The Odyssey by Homer. I feel like I have so many videos where I just rant about the Odyssey, but it's true. The Odyssey, especially the edition that I read when I was in school, I was like, I hate everything about this. It was written in verse, but it was written in very confusing and dense ways, and I didn't have a fun time studying it, and it was like 1,000+ pages, and I was like, why are we reading this? When will I ever use this again? I mean, I might go see the new Odyssey movie just because I like the cast, but I might just wait till it gets on streaming because honestly, if it's anything like the book, it's gonna be really boring. But yeah, that's one that definitely fits the when will I ever use this again, because honestly, what is the point of making a teenager sit through reading that book and dissecting it and analyzing it? Like, it's just, I'd rather do much shorter books and get a bigger variety of books for kids, or maybe do some books that are more meaningful and impactful in their lives. But instead we're focusing on the Odyssey. Okay, whatever. That was like several months of my life that I can never get back. I will never look back fondly at that time in my schooling. Question number 3, science. What was the last science-related book you read? I don't read science-related books much, honestly. I think the closest that I've gotten recently, it's not even recently, it's been a while, is like a self-help book, because that's technically psychology and that's a field of science. And the last one that I believe I read was You Will Get Through This Night by Daniel Howell. Daniel Howell is Dan Is Not on Fire, Dan Howell from like Dan and Phil. Dan and Phil were like a huge part of my teenage years and I was super into them, and I got this book as an adult to read because I was depressed and I was needing some sort of structure and self-help stuff. This book was good, but the thing that was difficult about it was it focused on so many skills that I had already had rough experiences with trying to learn and implement in my life in therapy. And so I think if I had read it as like a teen who didn't have much experience with therapy, I think it would have been stunning, beautiful. I think it would have helped me so much. But instead, I read it as an adult who had been through DBT and did not have a good experience with DBT, and who had also tried RODBT and who had some experience with CBT. And so especially the DBT type things, I was like, this doesn't work for me, and I was very averse to actually taking it in. But I recognize that it's a really good book that could really be impactful to a lot of people. Just if you've had a lot of therapy and you've had some not great experiences with therapy, it isn't going to be super helpful. So I have a lot of mixed feelings on it. I think if you haven't had therapy and you're struggling with your mental health, I do recommend reading it. I think there's a lot to it. Daniel also worked with like a psychologist when he was writing it. It wasn't like he was just writing stuff without knowing what he's talking about. He did get professional opinions and advice on what to put in there. So it is based in science. It is based on fact. It is based on proven theories and ideas that will help people. But I just read it at a time that I probably shouldn't have read it in my life. There's a chance that I could read it like now again and get a lot more out of it, but when I read it, it was at a point in my life where I just wasn't receptive to hearing and implementing the ideas that were in the book, if that makes any sense. Question number 4, social studies. Share a book from your TBR that is translated or deals with the government. I feel like I have to do translated because, I mean, I suppose I could do one about the government, but all of the books on my TBR about government aren't about like government. It's about like dystopian governments, and a lot of them are rooted in like the United States, for example. But you know, I'm just gonna stick, I think, with ones that's translated because I think that makes a lot more sense to include in here. So the one that I'm going to choose to talk about for this, I wish I could go grab it from my shelf, and my shelf is currently stacked with so many books that I don't know where exactly on my shelf it is. Like if I saw it right now, go grab it. But this one I picked up at a thrift store a while ago, and it's part of like a thriller like mystery series, and so I thought it would be interesting. This one's called The Blood Spilt, and it's by, okay, I'm not sure if I'm going to say the name right because it's a Swedish name and there's like an accent above the A and I'm not quite sure how to pronounce it. Asa Larson, and it's translated by Marlene Delargy. So it's like a thriller, it's a mystery, and it's specifically involving murders of priests in Sweden. I'm really interested in reading a book set in Sweden. I am Scandinavian. My family has tracked our ancestors, and I believe it was like my great-great-grandpa was from Norway. Like there's Norwegian in there. I'm Scandinavian. Sweden is like part of there. I really want to visit the Scandinavian countries someday. So I really am interested in reading a book set in Sweden. And I'm also interested in the priest element and how religion is going to play a role in this thriller. So this is one that I am really looking forward to reading, but I keep putting it off. I've literally had it on my shelf for years and I just need to pick it up and finally read it someday. Question number 5 is Exploratories. Which category of extra non-core classes do you take the most of in high school? This is a little bit of a complicated thing to answer. My high school experience wasn't normal. I spent 1.5 years in a school that was really stressful and drained the soul out of me, and it was the same school I was at in middle school as a combined middle school and high school. In the middle of my sophomore year, after dealing with mental health problems, I switched to a smaller school that was mostly online, but I met with a teacher occasionally, and I didn't meet like at a traditional school. I literally just met with her in a building that was in the school district because legally that's where we needed to meet, but like it wasn't like a local high school or something, you know what I mean? It was almost a little bit like mostly homeschool, but with a little bit of guided instruction. I don't really quite know how to describe it, but it was definitely a different experience. And then I switched to early college when I hit my junior year. If we're looking at like my normal high school per se, I wouldn't say that school that was combined middle school and high school was completely normal, but it's like the closest to normal I had to what most people have to high school. I would say that the extracurricular that I took most was band, because we didn't really have much variety and option of classes that we could take at that school because it was very small. They had a very strict IB program and they wanted us to stay strictly to what they wanted us to do. So if I gone to like a normal local high school, I would have had more variety, but I didn't go to a school with that option. Once I got into early college though, I'm trying to think what the one extra like non-core class I took most was. And it gets a little blurry because I was in community college for like a long time because, as I said, I take one class per term, so I've been in college for a while. I want to say it was probably psychology, although I guess you could deem that as a core class because it's science, but that's one that's not like English or writing or just general science that I know that I had a big interest in, and so I took multiple classes of that. I don't know how many I took in high school. Did I even take any in high school? I don't know. I'm getting all mixed up. But if we're not talking about like just English and math and stuff, I did take a lot of psychology for a while. I did have an extreme interest in that. I'm considered minoring in psychology. I technically probably could with my college, but I just haven't put in the effort. I haven't put in the effort at all. I'm very focused on just majoring in English and writing right now. And I'm definitely going to reach a point where I have to have like more 300 and 400 level classes that my school won't offer English and writing for because my college is pretty small. So maybe I'll just start taking a bunch of psychology classes and seeing if I can minor in it. I'm not really quite sure yet. Question number 6, Common Core, share a good pairing of a fiction with a non-fiction book. Okay, this one's gonna be a little harder to do because right off the bat, nothing is coming to mind. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna take an easy way out with this one. Tom Felton published a memoir called Beyond the Wand, where he documents his experience in the Harry Potter series and working on the Harry Potter series. There is other stuff to his life that's included there, but it's very heavily centered on Harry Potter and his experiences on the set. So that obviously the pairing it will go with is the Harry Potter series. I think it would be interesting to read the books and his memoir at the same time. It would also be interesting to rewatch the movies while reading his memoir. And maybe you could even time it up and be like, okay, we finished the first movie and we finished him talking about the first movie. Let's go on to the second movie and stuff like that. That's the only one I can think of for this. I feel like most of the nonfiction that I read falls into two categories. I read books about LGBTQ plus topics, and those nonfiction books I read, which I suppose I could pair with some LGBTQ plus romance. Specifically read a lot about asexuality because I am asexual and that's a huge part of my identity. The other grouping that I have is memoirs. I feel like most of the memoirs that I read though aren't ones that really translate well over to a fiction pairing. Like I have read like Binge by Tyler Oakley was a memoir that really stood out to me, but I can't think of a single book on my shelf that makes me think, oh, this will be a good book to go along with this memoir, which is why I sort of took the cop-out route by doing Tom Felton's book just because it was easy and the one that came to mind. I need to read more nonfiction, but I tend to gravitate towards fiction because fiction is the genre that I'm most interested in, I'd say. Question number 7, research. What was the last topic that inspired you to seek out books so you could read up on it? I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I think this might just be the idea of fae, because I can't think of any other ones. Like my brain was like, yeah, I seek out LGBTQ plus topics a lot because I'm very passionate about that community and learning more. I seek out a lot of books about racism, another thing that I'm passionate about and want to read more about. But I feel like most recently, the one that I've sought out is fae. And the reason for this is because we sort of had this idea of the fae that was popularized in romantasy of like, okay, they have pointy ears, they have a little bit of magical powers, but they basically look like just very attractive humans. But it's interesting because if you look at like the origins of fae and more classical depictions of them, they are more these like chaotic and evil creatures. And so it's interesting to read different depictions of fae that aren't just like the new adult or adult romantasy books, because you see a much more classical depiction of fae. We have that idea of fae that's been so romanticized, and one type has been pushed out there as this is the standard for what fae are. But if you look at the wide world of fae fiction that have been going on over the years, this new idea of these attractive fae is a very new concept, and it's interesting that there's so many other depictions of it. I would say like the fae that you see in like Throne of Glass or something isn't really like traditional fae, if that makes any sense. So it's interesting to see other depictions of it that tap more into the classical ideas of what a fae was. Question number 8, what subject area would you teach if you were a teacher? I feel like I have to go with English since I'm majoring in English and writing. I also would want to go with English because I had some really not great experiences with English teachers, and I felt so dumb reading classical literature when I was in high school and middle school and even in college. And I think if I were to teach English and writing, I would want to focus more on modern diverse books as opposed to classic literature written by white men in very dense prose that a lot of people struggle with. So I would definitely probably have to read some classics just to keep up a curriculum with my kids, but I'd also want to make sure that I'm reading more modern books that are easier to digest and that are more relevant to the students' lives. Question number 9 is share a photo from your school days. I have a ton of photos from my school days. Like, I grew up in the age of cell phones and iPhones, so I have like tons and tons of photos. Obviously still in school, so hello, it's also my school days right now, but I've shown a picture that was from a bit farther back. Question number 10 just says take some fellow lifelong learners. I'm not going to tag anyone. I don't really tag people in my tags. However, if you would like to do this tag, every tag question will be included in the description so you can do this video as well. I tag all of you who make booktube videos and are looking for a fun video to film. But that's really all for this video. I hope all of you enjoyed it. If you did, feel free to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to me if you haven't already. I hope all of you are having a great summer so far, and I'll see all of you in my next video. Until next time, everyone, goodbye.